If you have questions about probate and the overwhelming decisions that you have to make, that's what this video is about. Hey, this is Vito Scarnecchia with the Albatano Group, powered by Compass. Today we're talking with Ginger Crystal Faith, who is a probate expert up in the Livermore area of Alameda County. We do probate help as well. And when you're talking to people and you want to learn more about probate, that's what this whole video is about. We go through a lot of training, continuing education on understanding the process of helping you go through the entire process of probate. And your family member has probably passed away, and that's why you're learning about this right now, and our condolences. But our job when you hire us is to help you understand the steps and the process and what we can do to help alleviate a lot of the indecision and the overwhelm to help you get through this entire process. So we help you talk with the lawyers. We talk with our vendors to make sure the house gets cleaned out, ready to go. We help you with any repairs. And that's really what we're talking about today. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Ginger. So we're here to talk about you, Ginger Faith, and you live where?
I'm in Livermore, California, Northern California.
Beautiful place. As a matter of fact, that's where my son is right now with his girlfriend. They live really close to downtown.
I live really close to downtown, and my office is downtown.
Oh, is it?
Uh-huh. I live on 2nd Street. I actually work on 2nd Street.
Okay. Well, next time I go down there, I'll come and knock on your door.
Yeah, I'm right across from the post office in the old theater mall. Very cool little spot. Really cool, funky place. Yeah.
You're an independent broker, right?
I am.
And you're not
I've been an independent broker since 2001.
Okay.
So I started off investing in real estate in apartment houses in the 90s and became a mortgage broker in 2001 and got my real estate broker's license in 2005.
So you do loans as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very cool. I broke out on the independent route for many, many years, and just this year last year I converted over to a franchise. So I was independent. I started off with Prudential, and I got my broker's license, and I did independent for 16 years, and then I went to Coldwell Banker for about 6 or 7 months. Well, I liked them, and they train people really well, and they're very professional agents. The internal software, the applications that they had, just was not integrated. So Compass approached me, and I looked at their software that they have, the app, and everything's integrated. So instead of having to enter a client's information 5 times, which you had to do with the Coldwell Banker stuff, it was just one time. There's one integrated CRM, and you don't have to do things 50 times. So it's very, it's not perfect, but so. And then they also have this thing called concierge. So when I work with clients, I offer up to $75,000 for repairs, and there's no money, or whatever they borrow, they pay back at close, and there's no fees, there's no interest or anything.
Yeah. Actually, I work with contractors, and my company is doing one of those right now independently. We're doing that in Fremont. So it was actually a trust. You know, the woman was the trustee, the executor, and we're renovating the house, and we're taking care of it. We're going to be selling it probably the end of next month.
What are you going to list it at?
Probably about 1.5.
Okay. I have a client that's looking in Hayward, and he tops out at $1 million.
This one's in Fremont. This one's in Fremont.
Well, Fremont's closer to here, so that's good.
Yeah.
So the reason why we're talking today is because we're talking all about probate and learning a little bit about it, what your experience is, and all that. So how long have you been working on the probate side?
A few years now. I work with a really well-heeled probate gentleman who's a good friend of mine who's done over 500 probates. And he used to speak. I used to have these real estate investment clubs, and I was the host of it. We usually have like 45, 50 people every month. And this great guy, Gary, once about a year, he'd come and talk to us about his probate system. And so I got the system several years ago and started on it and started working with Gary. And great guy. And again, his team has done over 500 probates. He's been working the probate system since the early 90s. I just became so fascinated by it. And then when my dad passed away a couple of years ago, I literally did everything without an attorney. I did it pro purse. And I used Gary's system, and I really wanted to experience it myself from the standpoint of the paperwork and the renovation of the house, getting rid of the personal belongings, so that I could amplify my knowledge from the other side. Because I do believe in learning, there's a lot of ways to learn, but one of the ways I think that is best to learn is to dive in and just get yourself dirty and have that experience to see things from a client's perspective.
Yeah, that's hugely important, especially when you go through the whole thing of, from a client's perspective, when they've lost a loved one, because it's a probate deal, right? They're in a cloud of, I don't know what to do. There's so much stuff coming at me. And it's really good that you're there. And I do the same thing, right? We help the client understand what the process is, and we take a lot of stuff off their plate. And it's just a great value for people to do that and help people. So I mostly help people in the South Bay, San Jose, on down to Hollister, and some in Monterey County, but just the northern part of it. But you go down, you work all of Alameda County?
Alameda, Contra Costa, and my partner's in Sacramento.
Yeah, that's a tough drive for me. I sold a house in Merced just a couple months ago, and I mean, an hour and a half each way every time. And, in this market, when you're working with buyers, you don't get the first deal. So I went up seven times. That was not fun.
Right. Yeah, it's good to have some parameters. One of my teachers, I've got two probate teachers. One of them is in San Diego, and she belongs to the YouTube for Agents and buyer referral only. Kim, as you probably know Kim, I know Kim. And she's got this rule: you only go like 45 minutes out, because that's the reason, right? So it's too challenging otherwise, especially with Bay Area traffic. We want to give top-notch service, and be on time and make sure the client feels taken care of. We do have to have our parameters. So
absolutely. I mean, there's nothing better knowing that you could be at your client's doorstep in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And especially in South Bay, where it's very congested now. I'm sure Livermore is now. It's probably not as bad, but San Jose is very congested after COVID and everything. So going down to Hollister, that's a 55-minute drive, door to door, and it's it's not a problem. It's inconvenient. I actually have agents on my team that live in Morgan Hill and Gilroy, so they handle all that stuff as well. So what was your first entree to a probate sale?
It was working with this gentleman, Gary. And that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So
you got your first client, and how did you go through the process?
Basically, the process, the first thing a person needs to do by the time that probate happens, usually the grieving period is over, because in the beginning it's just shock and disorientation and, like you said, overwhelm, what to do. And the person inherited kind of like a hoarder house. And it was pretty overwhelming. So the first thing to do at the point where they were ready to say, okay, let's dive into the logistics here, was to try to find her and successfully find her someone that would help with an estate sale. And so there was an estate sale that actually lasted a weekend and then another half of a weekend because there was so much stuff. And then after that, it was a matter of connecting her with people that would take it off, take the rest of the stuff off her hands. Of course, after all of the errors went through the stuff directly, and so it's a lesson in in managing the overwhelm and trying to do everything we can to take the stress off of the client from the standpoint of the personal items. So that's the first thing. Get the house cleaned out completely. Get it so that you can breathe in there, and then assess the situation. So I don't recommend that people do a full remodel on the house, like update the kitchen. Normally, the numbers don't work. The goal is to get it spruced up, generally speaking, clean and nice and staged sometimes, and then move it on, because the numbers start not working when you start doing full remodels
Right.
normally.
Right.
So the next phase is to get a contractor in there, and I've got several that we work with to go in there. And contractors are awesome because if they really know their stuff, they can go into a house and like with Terminator glasses and know exactly what needs to be done and say, okay, we need this, and then they can just, bang it out. So that would be the next phase, just getting things tidy and presenting well. Rip up the ugly old carpets, broken knobs, things like that. Getting all the deferred maintenance pulled together so it looks like a nice, presentable house is the next phase. And then, working either with the attorney or if they're pro pers. Now I know a little bit more about pro pers than I did before, and we actually do have a service with paralegal that will take a person from the beginning to the end without an attorney, and it's just like a $1,200 as opposed to like $25,000 if it's a simple case and there's not a lot of contention or disagreement. If it's just more of a matter of just not knowing the paperwork and how to file it in the appropriate time, we have someone who can just take all of that and make sure everything is filed appropriately. So it's kind of a mixture of dealing with the house specifically, and then also if it's necessary to guide with the paperwork. And in this particular case, the person had the attorney, so it was pretty simple. The attorney did.
A few years ago, I did a survey on all the homes in my area in Santa Clara County. And what I found was only 5% of the homes were listed under a trust. And
oh wow, yeah,
that's like the big thing, right? It's when you what we don't do as a society is we don't talk about death and we don't talk about money. And I've made it my thing where I'm always talking to people, telling them this is the one thing that you need to do is get your house under a trust. And they're like, yeah, I'll get to it. It's so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But the amount of pain and, I call it a cloud, right? And when I was in the Marines, they said that the first time a shot is fired at you, they call it the fog of war, because you stop thinking. You just have to start going into muscle memory. And if you don't know what to do next, you're at the point where you don't know what to do. And it becomes overwhelming, which is why we have people like you and me to help, the survivors, I guess you want to call it. What do they call PRs? Personal representatives?
Personal representatives. Yep.
And to help guide them through the entire process from start to finish. And it's great that you work with the pro pers people, because $25,000, that's a huge chunk of somebody's inheritance. So you're helping them save money as well. That's great.
Right. That's a good analogy of the first shot, and that's very true. So when a person doesn't have muscle memory, that's where you need professionals to step in and help, right?
Yep.
People that you can trust, and that's the other issue. I had a situation with my dad where I was attempting to clean out his house, and this woman, he was out of the area. He was down in Southern California, so I didn't know anybody down there. So I met a woman down there, and she said, "Oh, none of this stuff will sell. It's, if you want, I'll take it all off your hands if you pay me $5,000." And this woman was supposed to be, and so I just looked at all this stuff, and she goes, "Oh no, this won't, roll top desk, nobody buys that, and nobody buys this, and nobody buys this." And because I wasn't familiar with the area, I thought, well, maybe she's right. But then I rethought it and I consulted with Kim, because that's what we do. We consult with each other. We're always trying to help each other, right? And Kim said, no, you should find another avenue. And I ended up finding a guy who did an estate sale, and I made $10,000 for the estate.
That's
And
awesome.
better than giving,
Yeah.
better than giving away 5,000, right? So, you and me, you and I are people that people can trust. And that's important, right? I didn't have anybody down there that I could trust. So I had to ferret around because it was out of Kim's range. It was farther out
Right.
from her. It was
It-
more in the desert toward Las Vegas.
oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
See, I would never go that far out. Not
well,
anymore.
it was for my dad. It was for
Oh,
my
yeah.
dad. That
Yeah.
was for my dad, so I had to.
Yeah.
Right. I was the PR for my dad. So
Yeah. We did that
yeah.
with my wife's, my wife's mother and grandfather passed away within 7 days of each other. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, Donna had early onset Alzheimer's and dementia, and Percy, he was older, and he was super active. He's like the epitome of that model senior citizen that's always active. He ballroom danced, bowled. He rode his bike 20 miles every day in the hot Reading sun.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he was a World War II vet. He fought in the Battle of Okinawa, and and he over years he had his hips replaced a couple times and had his knees replaced. His right knee replaced 2 times, and he crashed on his bike because that's what you do when you ride a bike and you're 86, 87 years old, and ruined his knee. So the doctor had to replace his knee a 3rd time, and he said, "Percy, no more." And within 6 months, he had passed away. And
Wow.
Donna, my mother-in-law, she had early onset Alzheimer's, and she was presenting around 57, 56, 57. She started presenting, and it just went downhill. And the story that I always have is Percy had a trust, and Donna and Dave did not. And the lessons that we learned from that was you absolutely need to have a trust, and there's multiple reasons why you should. And part of this is an advocacy for getting people to get a trust. But if you're in a situation where you're not, then you need to handle it a certain way, and that's where we can help. Just a few months ago, I did one up in Hayward, and it was the exact same situation. The guy had trinkets and doodads and everything everywhere. I mean, it looked like a store almost. It was just so much stuff, and so I helped him get the estate sale out, and we went through 2 big, not regular size bins, but I think there were 45-yard bins, the ones that cost like $850. They're just, and it was stacked full of stuff. And then we got stuff fixed up and put it on the market, and was sold in a few days, and everybody was happy. So I mean, that's the thing, and helping you get through the paperwork, getting through the legal stuff. Hopefully you don't have to get through a judge, and that's probably the most costly part, is when you have to present it up against the judge, depending on where you are. But yeah, so it's good that you're doing this, and it seems like everybody says that they're a probate expert, but you've gone through training. I've gone through training to make sure that we do it right, and that we understand, just like you said at the beginning of this conversation, the client's perspective, and that's ultimately important. So I'm glad that you do that.
Yeah, you too.
Do you have any questions for me? I think we actually spent more time getting set up and going.
I think so. Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
We don't want to bore our audiences, right? We want this to be, easy for our audience.
Move right along.
Exactly.
Move right along. Who's your ideal client?
My ideal client. So I work very tightly in my community, and people contact me 3-4 times a week to ask for vendors, because they know that I am connected. That's what we do. We get your house ready to sell. We bring in a whole line of of contractors and vendors and landscapers.
Yeah.
Get your house ready to move, and we handle it. I actually have a project manager on staff, so that's part of my talk when I do these videos. People see what we do, and we do that. And my ideal client is people that actually call me before they ever need to sell a house. They might have a real estate question, or they may say, "Hey, I need to have my fence fixed," or "Do you have a plumber?" those are my ideal clients because they know that I'm there to help them. And my ideal client is, 40, 50 years old, and they have elder parents, and they ask me questions. I get questions probably 3 times a month on trusts, on placement, on, working with lawyers. So it's just all about trying to educate those people, and the people that want to take that information and work with me. Those are the people that I want to work with. And, I was talking to one of my agents yesterday, and he's banging his head against the wall because he's working with a not so ideal client. Very sweet people, but they just don't align with what, how to sell a house. And they're listening to what you hear on Zillow and what you hear elsewhere and what other people are saying. But when it comes to selling a house, it's a very specific system that you have to work to make it successful. And people that are willing to work with you and listen to you, those are my ideal clients. Matter of fact, I had one last year at Dave and Dawn Moberg, and they're such amazing people. They moved up to Galt, Elk Grove area. They called me. We were both in the Marines, not to get at the same time. He was in, 29 Palms. He was a radio guy, and I was a grunt. So I was in Pendleton and Okinawa. But he saw my videos, and he's like, I need you to come and talk to me about selling my house. And they had watched, just like what Karen says, they had watched all my videos. And when I'm sitting there giving them the presentation, they were finishing my sentences.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It was,
they're fans, raving fans.
That was such a great transaction from start to finish. They appreciated me so much. I wore it yesterday. They gave me a t-shirt that said Mortarman, because in the infantry you have this little rocket or a little bomb that you shoot down range and kill the enemies. That was my job. I was a Mortarman. So he gave me a shirt thanking me for selling his house.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So, and they were older, but they were very, those are the people that you always cherish working with. And I keep in touch with them to this day. Yeah. Well, good. So what's a good way for people to contact you if they have probate questions?
Probably text me, 925-580-2231. We'll put that on the bottom. Yeah. Just put that on the bottom. Text me. Text me for quick response.
Do you have a special website?
I do. I do. I have eastbayprobatehelp.com.
It was amazing to get to know you a little bit more. I've been seeing you for the last couple of years on Karen's channel, and I know we've chatted back and forth a few times, but it's really great hearing your voice and getting to know you a little bit.
Yeah, you too, Vito. Very much. Very much. Yes.
All right, guys.
Thanks for this opportunity. It's been fun.
You bet.
Okay.
We'll see you out there.
Okay. Ciao.
Take care. Bye. Do me a favor real quick. Take 2 seconds and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Also hit the like, the little thumbs up, and the little bell so you'll be notified of upcoming videos.